Hello there, and this one is called My Curious Relationship with Antibiotics. So antibiotics are what are given to treat particular infections, most particularly of bacteria. E. coli, botulism, loads and loads of illnesses caused by bacteria, and that's why antibiotics are used. Think of tetanus, think of pneumonia, the list is endless. So I want to talk about my personal relationship with antibiotics, and to declare right at the beginning that it actually goes back to before my conception, because before I was conceived my father was in hospital with tuberculosis, and the surgeons were threatening him with an operation called the thora, which is a particularly invasive and horrific and barbaric procedure which involves opening up the whole of the chest, doing things with the lung, putting things back together again, and doing the same thing with the other side of the chest. So two massive operations. He was scheduled for that, and at that point the military were the first in the UK to receive the first of the antibiotics. It was streptomycin that was the one he was given, and he was given streptomycin and he was cured of his tuberculosis. So because he got cured, he then had sex with my mum and created me and all the other members of the family. So I literally owe my life to the existence of streptomycin. So that's the first thing. Great respect and appreciation for the spirit of that particular drug. So my next connection with antibiotics is when I was working as a medical scientific officer in pathology in hospital, and I did that on a couple of hospitals in Norfolk and also in London, Hyde Park Corner Hospital. And in that I found myself in a situation where I was testing samples from human beings and finding out what the causative organism was that was giving them the manifestation of their disease, and doing some testing and advising the doctor exactly which antibiotics to use and which ones not to use. And they would take that information, give them the patients the drug and cure them of their urinary tract infection or tuberculosis or whatever it might happen to be. So in the doing of that job, I can remember a particular moment. I used to go at lunchtimes into the hospital library and research, because they had a good microbiology section there. At that point I got my degree in microbiology already, and I'll never forget reading about tetracycline, because it turns out that when a person is given tetracycline, it actually creates irreversible liver damage. And that was a really big wake-up call for me. That was probably the first big wake-up call I received in my life. And it was that caused me eventually to move from working in medical pathology to working as a health advisor in a health food shop and training as a health counsellor. So my whole life literally changed at that point, due to finding out that these antibiotics cause a lot of harm. So we need to go into the meaning of the word. Why do they call them antibiotics? Because you see, they could call them antimicrobials. If they called them antimicrobials, it would mean that it was a drug designed to kill microbes, which you think, well, okay, so that's curing a disease. But they're not called that. They're called antibiotics, and for a reason, because actually they don't just kill pathogenic microbes, they don't just kill organisms of disease, they actually kill, that's it, they kill life. So anti is against, and bios, the Greek word, is life, so they are against life. So the very nature of taking an antibiotic is taking a fundamental step against life and towards death. And the very least of the death is going to be many of the miraculous microbes in your body. And as we are beginning to realize, and what the microbiologists have known for a long time, that actually the majority of our physical body is made of microbes. The minority is all the cells and all the organs, all the tissues. The majority is the microbes. So that's what we're doing. We're giving them a horrific hammering every time we take antibiotics. So there has been other occasions in my life when I've been prescribed an antibiotic and it has prevented me from succumbing to a particular condition. Other times I've been given antibiotics. A particular one I remember only some years ago, I was doing some DIY and I managed to drive this screwdriver into my hand instead of into the bolt where it was supposed to be going, and impaled myself and went to the A&E and they obviously dressed the wound, and they gave me what they call prophylactic antibiotics. Now this is something I've got a real issue with. Every time a person gets given antibiotics just in case, that's what prophylactic means. It means that if there's an infection, we'll kill it. But the thing is, there may not even be one if the wound is properly cleaned, if all precautions are taken care of, and if the person's immune system is in a good state. That's perhaps the most important thing to focus on in this entire message I'm giving you. If the immune system is in good state, then the body has got all the resources to defeat all the pathogenic microbes. So really what I'm saying is, when I talk about a pathogenic microbe, whether it's a bacteria or a fungus or a parasite or a virus, what we're saying is that particular microbe actually has a destructive effect on the human body. Now, it's a bit obvious when you think about it. If that human body has got microbes which are destructive to it, then it means that the body is completely out of alignment before that even happens, because that's what it takes. Body out of alignment creates susceptibility to disease, which creates the ingress of pathogenic microbes. So that's actually what happens. So if we go a bit deeper in, and the shamanic perspective, it always goes into deeper issues. I am aware of someone who has died, and it was very clear that the cause of death was related to a very deep melancholy. In another death I'm thinking of, which was caused by another disease, it was to do with a huge amount of unresolved anger. So when we go into looking at individual cases, we can see, when we get to know the person's emotional makeup, what their prevailing mood states are, that actually that gives us a lot of clues. So a very negative mood state which is prolonged is meaning that that person, their resistance to the disease is lowered because of that. Obviously wearing masks, using hand sanitizer and everything else is also lowering your resistance to disease, as is of course social distancing, or lowering your resistance to the disease. So emotional states, deep negative emotional states, harbouring a great deal of resentment, these are all the sorts of conditions that lower the body's immunity to the point where a pathogenic microbe could say, "Oi, look lads, we've got a chance in here." So what do we do to prevent disease? This is it. Prevention is so much better than cure. The primary thing we need to do is to nourish our microbiome, to create an environment in our bodies where the body is just saying, hey, healthy microbes, come and live here, because we've got a really healthy place for you to come and live. And we can take prebiotics, which are particular foods, substances we can use, like superfoods, which can actually put the body into that activated state whereby it's more amenable to the healthy microbes. We can then deliberately choose to take them into our bodies through taking probiotics, through sauerkraut, through kimchi, through other fermented products. When we do that, we are giving the microbes that exist in our bodies loads of new friends to play with. And the more the merrier in terms of the healthy ones, because the thing is, the body is depleted of microbes in general. If you've had loads of antibiotics, like say several quarters over a period of time, can you imagine how that's hammered your microbiome? That microbiome is now so limited in its diversity, it doesn't really have diversity left. And so that means it's so much easier for the pathogenic microbes to get in there and get a hold of things. So all of these things that we can do to protect ourselves, eating an organic diet, making sure we have plenty of vital energy superfoods in our bodies, particularly beetroot is enormously powerful for the immune system. So is the resveratrol in red wine, a powerful immune system boost. Any plant that's got that deep red colour is an immune system boost. Taking maca from South America, or ginseng from Asia, or ashwagandha from the Indian subcontinent, these are all powerful things we can do to help. Another thing we can do is we can say hello to the fungi, and we can take reishi, we can take all the other well-known chaga, lion's mane, cordyceps, there's loads of them. We can take powerful adaptogenic fungi into our body as a tea or as a capsule, or in the diet as a mushroom called chicken in the woods that's used culinarily. make lovely dishes out of that. That's a really good thing to be putting in there. All of this is going to do you the power of good. So I'm literally alive thanks to antibiotics. I appreciate that there are times we need to use them because if a person's got a really overwhelming infection or something and there's no alternative, it's too late to use the immune system boosting route because it's too depleted already. We might need to use a temporary short-term fix like an antibiotic, followed by, and I'm going to be really precise about this, I'm going to suggest a couple of years. If you've had antibiotics, give yourself 2 years to boost your immune system. Please remember the beetroot, preferably raw, grated in a salad, juice, whatever. That is such a powerful immune system boost. And all the other things that you can do that I've mentioned, that really is the way to go. So I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for streptomycin, and I counsel at all times to favour the immune system then you don't get the disease in the first place, and also to be very careful that if you or those close to you have got themselves into a profoundly negative emotional state and it's persisting, that's a little bit of an alarm bell ringing that you need to make sure that person's immune system is well boosted, because we don't want them to be getting an infection, do we? That's it, folks. Thank you very much.